First off, thank you ever so much for watching this video. This video is all about how I use the maths whiteboard on a day-to-day basis. Hopefully you'll find something useful, so let's go take a walk.
I've always believed that the starter can always make or break a lesson. If you can capture the student's interest early on, it makes the rest of the lesson so much easier. So having something purposeful and relevant on the board as soon as students enter has always been a useful part of my lesson. In order to help replicate this in other classrooms, I created the last whiteboard. This tool makes use of the Maths Whiteboard question bank. The screen is split into 4 different sections: last lesson, last week, last topic and last term. However, any of these sections can be easily personalised to what you want. With this tool you can have immediate retrieval practice that is personalised to each class. In each window, simply search for a particular skill that matches the time period that you're hoping to focus on. Select MWB and a question will be generated. Down the right hand side you've got 6 different stars. As you move down the stars, the questions will get progressively harder and harder. Selecting a particular star again will generate a question at that particular level again. So you can search for one that best suits your students' learning at that time. When students have completed this activity, simply select a question and it will move to the answer. If a particular student wants to go through a question, click it again and it will bring the question up again. And if you happen to be using an iPad or some other touch device, select the pen tool in the corner and you can then begin writing on the screen. Thinking about the fact that some people will want to plan their lessons in advance, you can design your starter, and in the bottom right hand corner is a link button. Selecting the link button will mean that you can regenerate each of these 4 activities another day. Pasting the link into a browser, 4 brand new questions are generated, but notice how each of them focuses on exactly the same skills that you selected. This means that you can have the same starter on consecutive lessons if required, and perhaps changing only the last lesson activity each time. Starters don't always have to be about retrieval practice or answering maths-based questions. One of the things that we could use the starter to be able to do is develop vocabulary understanding and definitions. The Maths Whiteboard site has 2 key tools in order to be able to help you rehearse vocabulary definition pairs. Just scrolling down we arrive at the first one, the word search board. Now behind the word search board I've collated together a range of different topics, and within each topic I've created a list of words and their definitions. So for example, if I search expand, we've got the term algebra and also expansion, and selecting expansion it will come up with a list of all the words that will be contained within that word search task. Select preview. Now at the moment the list of all the words that the students will have to find in the word search are contained on the left hand side, and then their definitions on the right. If I scroll up to the top of the word search, I can either hide the display words, in which case the students now need to find the words based on the definitions, or ask students to come up with what a key definition might be for each of the words that they've got to find. If I was being immensely horrible, knowing that the topic is about expansion, they could come up with a list of all the words that they think they could find relating to that topic and their key definitions in the word search. Once you're happy with the selections that you've made, simply select Create Activity PDF, and a PDF containing your word search will then be produced, print and hand out to all students. The answers are provided, so please make sure that you create your answer sheet as 2, as if you come to create your word search again, the word search words will actually be jumbled up. The second tool, scrolling down a little bit further, is the What Am I board. Same thing again if I search for expand. We've got the same 2 topic areas, so if I select expansion, It comes up with all the words and click Create Word Board. It will randomly select 6 of those key words. Now imagine if students enter the classroom and you've got these 6 definitions based on something that they're about to do in their lesson up on the board. Already they're engaging with some of the vocabulary that they're going to encounter at some point during that lesson. Selecting any of the definitions will bring up the key words, and it could be that as an activity I show them the words or the definitions, vice versa, and interchange them as I choose. An old colleague once taught me that if you can signpost the learning or show how there is a need for change in what a student knows already to what they should know by the end of the lesson, it will help students to see that learning has happened. One of the best tools we can use in the classroom to help show that change is required is the mini whiteboard. The Maths Whiteboard site first started out with its core purpose being how to develop the use of mini whiteboards in a lesson. So let's take a look at how we can achieve this. At the heart of this feature is the Maths Whiteboard question bank, so I can search for any particular skill in the search bar and select Mini WB. A question will be centralised in the middle, large enough for everyone to see in the classroom. Along the top we've got our 6 stars. Selecting a particular star will refresh the question. Moving along the stars will make the questions harder. The wonderful thing about this tool is that you're not limited by the number of questions that you can have in your mini whiteboard assessment of students. You're only limited by the number of stars. To learn more about what's behind each star, if you open up the main menu again and select the question mark, it will bring up a skills list of what each star assesses. So having used mini whiteboards in order to assess students' understanding, we've arrived at a sticking point of the 4-star questions. At this point I tend to use the I do, we do, you do example in order to overcome any barriers. Opening up the left hand menu and selecting Model It on the same skill that you've just been assessing will bring up the I do, we do, you do template. You'll notice along the top we've got our 6 stars again, so selecting the 4-star questions will refresh each of the questions shown. Selecting the 4-star questions again will refresh all 3. If you only want to refresh one of them, simply select the refresh button on that question and it will refresh just that. Now I quite like the I do, we do, you do example, simply because it provides you the opportunity to be able to model exactly what students would want, an opportunity to fade out some of the support that you're giving, and then for the students to be able to have independent practice. If at any point you don't need all 3 sections, you can simply select the toggle and it will remove the we do. Now I'm using an iPad with the Apple Pencil, so I'm going to open up the pen tools in the left hand corner and then select record. Now for everything that I write on screen, it's now going to be recorded by the site. And then select stop. Selecting play again gives you an opportunity to be able to get the students to talk about what's happening as part of an assignment example. As we move through into the we do, this then allows you to perhaps have a faded example where you provide a little less support. So for example, it might be that I open up the pen tools again and I provide a template for the students to be able to complete. So for example, I'm expecting 2 things at this point. What would be there? Why have I then got a second line of working? Now with questions like these, the answers are fairly easy to be able to do in your head. With more challenging ones like nonlinear simultaneous equations, it's a little bit more challenging to be able to just think what the answer might be. So at any point, if you wish to show the answer and not the working, you can simply select the question and it will toggle between the question and the answer. Selecting the answer again will go back to the original question. Now one of the other things I quite like about the site is that this model still works when it comes to setting cover work. In the top right hand corner we've got the print button. Selecting this will convert this page and whatever you've got written on it into a PDF. That way you can actually have the same model of teaching even with cover staff. So we've just completed our modelling example. In order for techniques to be cemented into long-term memory, sometimes we need to just give students a few similar questions for them to learn routines. So in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the secure whiteboard. Selecting this will produce 6 questions at the same level that you are currently working at for students to complete on screen. Now this feature is accessible not only from the I do, we do, you do example template, but also from the main whiteboard tool as well in the bottom right hand corner. If the variation of questions doesn't quite suit your purpose, one of the things you can do is select the refresh question 2 button or question 3 and it will change simply just that one question. If you want to refresh all, simply select the refresh button on your browser window and it will refresh the entire page, rewriting each question. You have all the same tools on this page as you do on other aspects of the site. Simply selecting a question will revert to the answer, and in the bottom left hand corner you've got the pen tool. One of the things I wanted to introduce into this aspect of the video is also the ability to be able to change the colour of the background at any point. In the bottom right hand corner we've got our colour palette. Selecting blue for example will change the background from white to be blue. Selecting blue again will change it back to white. One of the other tools you have in the bottom right hand corner is the folder tool. What this will do is if you open up the pen tool and select save, it will take a snapshot of whatever is on screen including any writing and save it in your saved whiteboard view. Here you can see I've scribbled down a few other examples from previous parts of the video. So here, clicking on a particular window will revert back to the writing that I had on the screen. Now this is ideal if you wanted to return back to any example pairs that you may have gone through before then returning back to the question set that you were giving students. At any point this can be saved, especially if you're using a desktop tool. So selecting save will bring it into your download folder, and selecting the image will then show you the resulting JPEG. Now practice doesn't have to come in the form of 6 questions. Returning back to the home page of the site and just scrolling down a little bit, we get to the games section. Now these 6 games have been designed in order to be able to embed practice into a game. So selecting bingo for example, and searching for the skill that you're after. Select the difficulty level that you want to practice, and that includes All-Star if you wanted a full retrieval of every skill relating to expanding over a single bracket. I'm going to select the 4-star and create a game. The first thing you'll see are all the answers of the questions that are about to be shown. Students need to select 9 of these answers to complete their 3x3 grid. Once all students are ready, begin the game. A question will be shown nice and clear for all students to complete. If they have the answer, they can cross it off. In order to make sure that all students know what the answer is, you can simply select Answer before then moving on to the next question. With card flip, I wanted to be able to combine a reward system with practice. So same thing again, search for a particular skill and click Create Card Flip Game. Now hidden behind each of these 8 cards is one of these prizes. You select a student who will receive this one prize. Perhaps they've selected card 6. Card 6 is locked until the end of the game. You now randomly choose other students around the class. Perhaps they've selected card 3. Now in order to flip card 3, they need to answer a particular question. Now it could be that we select 4-star again, but I could select any of these at this point, depending on the ability of that student. You could ask that one student to answer this question, or everybody using mini whiteboards. Select 4-star, A 4-star question will be shown, and if you want the answer, simply select the answer button, before then returning to the game. 1 point is then disappeared. Hidden behind card 6 is not 1 point. We then carry on the game. Perhaps the next student selected card 8. They answer a question and return to the game. This carries on until the end. Now at any point you could ask students, like other well-known games, if they want to bail out at any point by accepting an offer from the teacher. If they choose not to bail out, whatever is behind card 6 is what they'll get. In this case, unfortunately, I've got the class test. So, at the top here, I can produce a test. This will then take me back to the same practice screen, where they'll be given 6 questions in order to complete. Wheel of Reward works in a very similar way, a way of combining rewards with assessment. Simply search for the skill that you're after and create the wheel. Now on the right hand side we've got our wheel, and on the left we've got our 6 stars. Selecting one of the stars will bring up a question. You could ask all students to complete this using their mini whiteboards. For any student that gets the correct answer, you could randomly select a student and then ask them to spin the wheel. To spin the wheel, simply select Spin in the centre. I've just collected 1 house point, or the equivalent merit mark or whatever system you have in your school. Select another question, and the process carries on. Whilst it's possible to keep most of the resources that you'll get from the Maths Whiteboard site electronic, sometimes it is nice to be able to change the focus of what students might be looking at and create a hard copy of that resource. Well, this is where the printable section of the website comes in. Here you've got a collection of different resources, so let's take a dive into the scavenger hunt treasure hunt tool. With this you can add as many skills as you like, so it might be that I search for expand over a single bracket. At this point I could select all to make sure that it's a differentiated task and that I cater for all abilities within the group. Selecting how many questions I want from each level. So if I select 2, it will take 2 1-star questions, 2 2-star questions, and so on. So I'll select 3 for each. I can add another skill if required. This is particularly great if you're doing a revision task. Select Preview. And what you'll notice is that the cards are made up of the answer to another card and a question. Now as I scan down, all the cards are currently in order, but you'll notice that it will jump from, say, card 12, which is what the first card said, to card 17. All of them have been jumbled up. If I click Create Hunt, you'll then get a PDF. With each page you can randomly select a place around your room where you can position these cards. Students then have to go round in a journey. You'll know that this is the starting card. This is always the first one. But card 12 will lead on to card 17, and if it's placed in a different area of the room, it will mean that students' focus is always changing. In order to support those that are more able within the group, as they get through the activity, they'll notice the questions get harder and harder, up until the last card. The very last card is your resource. This shows you one possible route through all the different cards. So card 12 to card 17 to card 2, card 5, and so on. So please prompt students to be able to record not only the question but the card number that they're completing at the time. That way it makes a really easy resource to be able to mark at the end. With the link sheet resource, same thing again. Search for a particular skill, select what type of level you want within that skill. So I'm going to go for a retrieval practice, select Preview. I'm going to go straight to creating the activity so that we can see the resulting PDF. Now on page 1 we've got our activity nicely jumbled up, albeit card 1 actually matches up with answer 1. But card 2, question 2, does not match up with answer 2. Students will need to draw a line from the question to the relevant matching answer. Scrolling down, we can see that question 1 matched up with answer 1. Question 2 matched up with answer 3. Question 3 matched up with answer 6, and so on. So hopefully you can then mark it fairly quickly. With the Domino sheet board, same thing again. Search for a particular skill, identify how hard you want it, and how many questions you want from each level. Select preview. I'm going to jump straight to create activity. Now what you've got are 9 cards per sheet. Each of these cards needs cutting up, and this creates the domino. All of the cards are jumbled up, so it's not a case of when giving it to the students will be able to identify that card 10 matches up with card 6. They'll need to find the correct answer somewhere, and as they find a question and an answer pair, they'll actually put card 10 and card 9 together in a line, creating the domino. As you move through the activity, at the very end you've got your possible answer route. So card 5 would link to card 2 and so on, all the way to the point where card 11 would match again up with card 5. So no matter what starting point, students will be able to carry on their journey through each of the different cards in order to get the correct final route. One of the most powerful resources that is on the Maths Whiteboard site is the worksheet generator. With the worksheet generator, search for a skill, select how hard you want it, select how many questions, and add more skills if required. Select preview. Now within the preview, what you can see is that you've got 2 questions relating to the 1-star questions, 2 questions relating to the 2-star questions, and so on. And this creates a really nice retrieval practice, homework, topic assessment, or nice revision activity. For all the questions that are produced by the system, the final few pages are all the answers, so that way you don't have to go through and answer each question in turn. Being a teacher, I sometimes feel like I never stop. I'm either planning lessons, creating resource, or marking assessments. Anything I can use in order to reduce the time taken in order to complete some of these tasks is a winner, but as long as it doesn't reduce the impact that any one of those things have. So this is why I generated the QLA tool system. The purpose of the QLA tool is to identify where all of my students are with a particular topic or with a test paper. So let's just say I've done a topic test on expanding brackets. If I just quickly scroll down, you'll see that there's a list of templates. Now some of these templates have been created using the Create a New Template tool. The purpose of this video isn't going to go into that, but there is a tutorial video up in the top left hand corner. I'm going to simply select expand over a single bracket, and you can see that there is a topic test that's available. Now producing this topic test, what you'll see is it will produce 30 questions based on the number of stars within that unit. In this case, the test is made up of 5 1-star questions, 5 2-star questions, and so on, until I build up to 30. If I keep scrolling down, I get all the answers, which is great. Now just returning to the QLA tool, you'll notice that there's a separate button. And this tool is meant for me to be able to send a template to students to be able to complete that breaks down all the different skills involved in that topic test. In order for students to be able to do that, they have 3 ways of accessing it. We've got a link that you could submit via email, Microsoft Teams, or Google Classroom, a QR code, or even they could access the website qla.mathswhiteboard.com and use the unique class code that's been generated for this active browser window session. For the purpose of this demonstration, on the left is going to be the teacher window, and on the right will be a student window. I'm going to copy this link, Now imagine if I'd emailed it to the student. They would have opened it up in a browser, and you'll notice that it then asks them to enter in their name. Now as a prompt, it asks them to enter their first name and surname initial, but you could enter in anything you like. So it could be that I put in my surname and then first initial. As soon as students have signed in, they'll get a waiting message. And if I scroll down back to my templates, I can now submit this to the students. On my screen, I get a view of all students and what they've entered in. Now this is a live link to the students. So in the student link, if I start entering information, it will then immediately show up on the teacher view. As you can see, the paper has been broken up into each of the different skills. So question 1 to 5, which was our 1-star questions, relating to multiplying single positive terms over brackets. Let's say I got 4 out of 5. Now within a few moments, the teacher view then updates, and it's a great way of quickly collating all of the information very quickly, especially if you've got 32 say in a class. The next one, I got 5 out of 5. But for the remaining, I got 3, 2, 1, and I didn't get anything at the very end of the paper. Now straight away, imagine if I've got a whole class load of information. This is perfect because I now know exactly where I need to start my next lesson. In this instance, I can see that by the time we got to the 3rd skill, this student began to really struggle. I now know exactly what I need to work on with this student. Now there's no save button, simply because as soon as students have entered in their data, it immediately gets submitted to a member of staff. So as soon as they're finished, they can either click the close button, or they can just close down their browser window. One thing I like just checking with students is that my total matches up with theirs, and then that way I know that they've entered in everything correctly. If anyone's made a mistake, it should be fairly clear because it will come up purple instead of red, amber or green, in which case they can just re-enter that information again and it will come back to my screen. Now is there any way that I can actually enter in the data myself? Well, enlarging the teacher interface, you'll notice at the top we've got End Student Link. What this will do is it will remove students' access to be able to submit results to me. So killing the student link, you now notice that you've got an extra Add a Pupil to the Data button. This is where I can add in any other students. So Smith J was absent on the day of data entry, but having got their paper, I can enter in their data myself. Once you're happy that all the results have been completed, we've now got the PDF tool. The PDF tool does is it creates a feed-forward question for each of the different skills that were contained within that topic test. And within the report that's generated, it provides a summary of all the information that students or myself have entered in. So here you can see Smith J's results, nice and clear, and hopefully this will give them a really clear outline as to what they were good at and what they might need to improve on. But for any areas that they needed to improve on, just scrolling down, we can now see what that looks like. So if students were really struggling with the terminology used in a particular question, at least then you can now associate that with what that would look like as a maths problem. Now this provides individual personal feedback. So if I scroll down to Would Find M, you can see that the questions generated for them is completely different to Smith J. But obviously we've then got the problem that if every single student has got their own personal problem, it would create another endless marking cycle. So just scrolling down, you'll notice that all the feed-forward questions that were generated by the system, and bearing in mind that there were 6 different skills contained within that test paper, it's actually generated 6 different problems, one at each of the stars that were included in that topic test. Now all I need to do is simply check the feed-forward questions and the answers, and it could be that I actually ask the students to self-assess themselves at the end of the feed-forward task. Just returning back to the QLA tool, you will also notice that there's an Excel button. Selecting the Data Excel button. The nice thing about the Excel document is it provides an exact copy of what was contained within the website. Now unfortunately, when it comes to the website, the Excel document is a definite must in order to download, because when I close the browser window, this data will be removed and it's not accessible again. So having the Excel document provides you a means of then planning your future lessons using the information collated by that one QLA session. So we've finally reached the end of this training video, or at least part one of it. The only reason why it's part one is that the tools on the site are going to continue to expand. I haven't even touched on some of the big ones that have been recently added. Things like the term planner board. With the term planner board, you can actually group the Maths Whiteboard resources together into yearly term planners. Now, if you're interested in finding out a little bit more information about this, watch the tutorial video at the top left hand corner. Also, one of the other additions to the site fairly recently was Get the Target. This is my countdown inspired starter activity. Again, it's based on 1 to 6 and progressively gets harder as you move through the stars. And resources will always continue to be added to the site. One of the things I'm working on at the moment is a revision card pack creator. Here you'll be able to find all the revision cards that I've created and simply select the ones that you want and create your revision pack resource. On side 1 of each card will be an example pair that uses QR codes in order to hide the answers to examples I'd like students to be able to complete. Or on side 1 you'll have a knowledge organizer. On side 2 you'll have a range of different questions, and again each of them are supported by a QR code where the students can scan to get the answers to that particular card. So what started out as being a website designed to support the use of mini whiteboards has gradually changed over time in order to become a key teaching tool for mathematics. The work that you can see on the website today is only the beginning, and tomorrow, hopefully, so much more. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you managed to find something useful to support your everyday teaching.